Katka manages to stand up despite having a fractured leg, pretending to be okay when can't stop trembling. Sashiro informs her that if things get ugly, they'll activate the shield immediately, which greatly relieves Kafka as she won't be disqualified and can continue. At that moment, she starts coughing, showing that she's really not well. Shikagwa tells her not to worry about him and to move forward as much as she can, reminding her of her promise to give her all regardless of what happens. However, Chikawa extends his hand and asks her to let him help, wishing that they both do what they can. This surprises Kafka, remembering the times he saved her and taking his word. Sashiro can't help but laugh seeing them both, watching them on the screen. It turns out Kafka climbed onto Ichikawa's shoulders, which was the best option to move forward due to her broken leg. Declaring it as the fusion operation, Ichikawa feels embarrassed that others see him like this, but Kafka asks him to make the best of his suit while he supports her. Sashiro continues laughing at the situation, joking that they should already be approved in the clown exam. Suddenly, Chikawa starts running at a faster speed, catching Kafka off guard. They head directly towards Kikoru to support while the other participants continue fighting the residual Kaiju. In the meantime, Kikoru takes the lead, destroying the monsters that cross her path due to her great firepower and mobility. She knocks down the Kaiju so fast that others don't even have the chance to support her. At one point, she uses an iron bar to fight hand-to-hand with several of them, utilizing her incredible strength. It's announced that she has knocked down the last secondary Kaiju in the Delta area and will now enter combat with the main Kaiju as soon as she faces it. Kikoru throws a large grenade directly at its head, using maneuvers with the surrounding buildings to propel herself towards the monster's mouth. She holds onto its teeth with her legs in a perfect split and fires a highly powered bullet inside the Kaiju, destroying it from within with a massive explosion. Once she gets off it, the shattered body of the Kaiju falls to the ground, and it's announced that the final test has ended. Kafka didn't expect this, complaining about how fast Kikoru was, as they couldn't even catch up to her. She feels the pain of her injuries again, collapsing on the floor, exhausted. Just like Ichikawa, the drones return to base and stop monitoring the participants, while also assisting the injured, follow the procedures that must be followed. Sashiro thinks this ended too soon, and moreover, the work it took to prepare this main Kaiju was not easy. Mina mentions that Kikoru was better than what the rumors say. Upon hearing this, Sashiro says he had already anticipated that about 30 would withdraw, but none did. This resulted in the minimum of injuries, and it's clear that this result was thanks to Kikoru's presence, being the director's daughter, like father, like daughter, thinking that undoubtedly she will be the pillar of the defense division. Returning with her, Kei, speaking alone, asks her father if her performance was perfect. After finishing, she decides to return, wanting to see Kafka's face of suffering before leaving, but when she turns around, she realizes late of a new presence that appears behind her. When she returns her gaze, she is suddenly thrown by a projectile that pierces her chest. Both Kafka and Ichikawa feel exhausted from the effort they made for nothing, but despite that, they thank her for being able to continue in the exam. Thanks to her, hoping to see the results, suddenly, the residual Kaiju corpses begin to rise from the ground, to which Shikagwa considers that the best thing is to evaluate. Returning with Kikoru, she begins to suffer the serious damage from that wound, managing to protect her heart by concentrating her shield on one point, and that's why she can still fight. She focuses her gaze on that humanoid Kale, not knowing what the heck that thing is. This begins to speak to the big Kale next to it, which leaves Kikoru well surprised since it is a Kaiju that can speak. She, recovering from the hemorrhage, tries to react by aiming her weapon, but she is continuously besieged by a bunch of shots from this unknown Kaiju. The control room receives information that there are anomalies in Kikoru's vital signs, being able to hear the screams of pain she emits. They do not know what is happening because the drone is not monitoring her, but they do find out that the signals from the knockdown Kaiju are returning. Sashiro does not understand how this can happen since these Kaijus should not have such an attribute. That's when they inform him that the wave estimate of the Prince Kaiju is 6.4. With that, he sees that his level has risen, and that is a job for a small squad. Mina orders the students' shields to be activated and for the drones to return to show the situation. She also speaks to Sashiro to accompany her. They go directly to the test field to take care of the situation. All the participants begin to evaluate, but Kikoru remains on the ground while treating the wounds thanks to her suit. She understands that if everyone evaluates, someone has to stay to stop that thing in front of her. Otherwise, it will take several victims. She managed to stop the bleeding with the muscular tissue of the Kaijuu, repeating to herself that she can still fight, not allowing there to be victims in her battlefield. It is there when she remembers the words that her father constantly repeated to her about being perfect for the future of her country. Despite this, the main Kaijuu gives her a powerful blow that sends her flying to a nearby building, leaving her stunned by the impact. This leads us to flashbacks of her past where one of her schoolmates praised her for being extraordinary, as the best in the school. This girl retires when called by her father, receiving praise from him as well for having good grades, praises from him due to also having good grades. On the other hand, Kikoru is left alone as she's not picked up by her father. Instead, her butler, whom I'll call Sebastian for obvious reasons, approaches to inform her that her father will arrive home today. When she meets him, she tells him she was admitted with honors, but her father says it's the least he expects, and if she rests on her laurels, someone else will surpass her. He also tells her that with that done, she must move on to her next goal. She must continue to be perfect for the good of the future of this country and for her mother in heaven, which is a low blow from the old, but well, with those memories in mind, in the present, Kikoru continues with that mentality to stand tall in this fight against the main Kaijuu. However, she is once again struck by this monstrously powerful creature, which doesn't make her give up. But there comes a moment when she ends up dropping her weapon, realizing that she can no longer fight with that broken arm she has. The Kaijuu starts evolving its wings on its head, and by that point, the drones arrive in the area. The main Kaijuu realizes that the united Ganos that had been removed are regenerating, and it's also compressing energy. This worries Sashiro, not knowing if they will arrive in time. This monster keeps charging a powerful attack towards Kikoru, who at this point only apologizes to her father because she couldn't be perfect. Suddenly, Kafka appears before her to congratulate her for how well she has done. And right after that, the main Kaijuu fires its attack towards them. Kikoru receives no damage as Kafka protects her, for which she thanks him for his effort, while he starts transforming into his Kaijuu form. Once ready, he steps forward to take care of this situation. On the other hand, the other students use torches to signal the wounded, continuing with the evacuation. As for Chikawa, he remains worried about Kafka because moments before they were together, but when it was announced that Kikuro was in combat, Kafka disappeared from his sight, and Shikaga immediately knew that he was going to transform because that's what Kafka would do to protect Kikoru, so he heads there to provide support. She also sees that Kafka has just transformed, which leaves her in shock. What he does is kneel before her and ask her not to tell anything to the defense division. Completely ignoring the giant monster behind him, it fires another attack at him, but Kafka deflects it with a simple blow as if nothing. Finally, he tells Kikoru that he will give her the details later, planning to blow away that Kaijuu in a second. That's when he starts charging his energy, preparing one of those powerful blows. Meanwhile, in the control room, Konomi reports that unknown energy has been detected near the main Kaijuu, and there's a possibility it's a new Kaijuu. They don't have an image due to interference from the shockwave, and the values of this new Kaijuu are 9.8. Sashiro believes the impact must have damaged the measurement device because if those values were real, it would be a Kaijuu that would go down in history books. Kafka continues charging up to launch that blow, creating supports to firmly stand on the ground. From his shield, a thruster emerges to further enhance the punch he's about to deliver, ending up fist bumping the main Kaijuu. And when he releases all his power, the shockwave is so intense that a huge explosion occurs. When everything ends, all that can be seen is that the main Kaijuu was almost completely pulverized, leaving only its legs and a few organs. Kafka, jokingly, tells him that it's trying to revive after that, but quickly regrets it when he sees the remains start to move. Fortunately, they stop after a few seconds, which relieves him. Suddenly, he runs towards Kikoru to eliminate a residual Kaijuu that was behind her, smashing it to pieces with a simple blow. Now that everything is over, she approaches to remove the transformation from her head, letting him know that she's glad she's safe and sound, but she also tells him that he should take better care of himself. Just then, Shikagwa arrives to scold him for transforming, worried that he might be discovered. At that moment, she becomes unconscious, and later on, Sashiro and Mina arrive at the combat zone, finding nothing but the remains of the main Kaiju. Konomi informs them that the missing candidates have already been taken care of, namely Kafka, Kikoru, and Ichikawa. Sashiro doesn't believe Kikoru did this, and with that massive explosion seen from afar, there are a lot of mysteries related to this incident. He also remembers that this case is similar to what happened a few months ago, already at the hospital. Kafka tells Chikua that he hasn't competed with such awesome people for a long time, and that reminded him of something. Following your dreams is the most important thing. It's something you shouldn't give up on. Every minute and every second you're losing until you fulfill them. But it's so exciting that you're capable of forgetting that, and that's what he remembered thanks to the push he received. At that moment, Mina, who was eavesdropping without being seen because she's nosy, can be seen. She enters the room a few seconds later, thanking them for saving Kikoru by carrying her to safety, then leaving without saying anything else. But she quickly stops herself and avoids saying anything, deciding to while still lying down, tending to her wounds. Sashiro approaches to tell her that they took care of the residual Kaius, and they all revived, thanks to her being able to eliminate the main Kaiju. Upon seeing her reaction, he asks if she wasn't the one who defeated it. Kiku remembers Kafka's words after he saved her, and after a few seconds of silence, she finally responds to Sashiro that she was the one who defeated it. In a scene change, we see this humanoid Kaiju in a public restroom, listening to the news about the incident. There, he learns that there were no casualties, not expecting them to be so strong that none of them died. They also mention that Kaiju number 8 is still unaccounted for, although he doesn't understand what they're referring to. Suddenly, he receives a call asking where he is, and he changes into human form to respond with a normal voice, disguising himself as a janitor working with Caius. Leaving the restroom, he excuses himself by saying he felt unwell in the stomach, with them having no idea of his true identity.